The Daya River flows quietly today through eastern India. Looking at the water, you would never guess the history buried in its mud. Emperor Ashoka's campaign here in 261 BCE is widely recorded as his crowning military achievement. Yet this victory broke the emperor, leading him to dismantle the war machine that won it. To understand this contradiction, we have to look past the usual narratives of battlefield glory. We need to examine the actual mechanics of the campaign, the logistics, the terrain, and the physical evidence of the slaughter. By 261 BCE, the Mauryan Empire dominated the Indian subcontinent. Their borders stretched from modern-day Afghanistan across the northern plains, halting only at the independent coastal state of Kalinga. The military mismatch was extreme. Emperor Ashoka commanded over 100,000 infantry and roughly 800 war elephants. Kalinga's defense force was significantly smaller, fielding around 60,000 foot soldiers and 700 elephants. Kalinga's coastline was the true strategic prize. Controlling this territory meant total authority over the maritime trade routes extending into the Bay of Bengal, granting Ashoka a monopoly over regional commerce. Numerical superiority usually guarantees an easy sweep. However, the outcome is rarely decided by numbers alone. It is dictated by the geography the soldiers must cross and the economic prize they are sent to secure. To reach Kalinga, the Mauryan army marched hundreds of kilometers away from their secure heartland. Every week of travel added to the physical wear on the soldiers and their pack animals. This massive distance pushed the Mauryan supply lines to their limit. By the time they reached the border, the logistics required to feed and arm 100,000 men had become dangerously fragile. The landscape offered no relief. The region was a hostile maze of dense jungles, wide rivers, and the uneven, rugged ground of the eastern coast. At the Daya River, the initial clash followed the standard Mauryan playbook. Ashoka deployed heavy infantry in the center and launched a massive elephant charge that shattered the Kalinga front lines with sheer momentum. Within hours, thousands of Kalingan soldiers lay dead. By every established rule of ancient military doctrine, the battle was effectively decided. This tactical success created a new, unforeseen problem. Ashoka's massive force now had to occupy and hold a landscape that refused to surrender. The surviving Kalinga warriors abandoned the open riverbanks for the dense forest, transitioning to guerrilla warfare. They traded traditional formations for small, mobile groups that used the jungle to launch lethal ambushes. These small units targeted the overstretched Mauryan supply lines. By destroying food caches and weapon convoys, the Kalinga resistance began to starve the occupying army from within. Trained for open-field combat, Mauryan rigid battle formations became a hindrance in the jungle. Huge infantry blocks fragmented, chasing mobile skirmishers. Starvation and fatigue set in. Cut off from supplies, isolated units disintegrated under constant, unseen attacks. This was the ultimate tactical irony. The Mauryan army's size and heavy armor, once its greatest assets, became the primary causes of its collapse in this environment. We know the final cost because Ashoka documented it himself. These ancient inscriptions, carved into rock faces, serve as direct confessions. The records list 150,000 persons deported and 100,000 killed, describing a level of destruction that went far beyond military necessity. When Ashoka surveyed the field, the sheer volume of the dead had physically dyed the Daya River crimson. He had secured the Bay of Bengal, but the reality of the slaughter horrified him. When a leader is revolted by the successful execution of his own orders, the victory is functionally a defeat. The horror of Kalinga ended Ashoka's expansion. He ordered an immediate halt to all military campaigns, replacing the policy of conquest with dhamma, a code of moral governance based on nonviolence and compassion. State resources were reallocated. Battlefields became monuments, like the Dali Shanti Stupa, built directly over the massacre site to project a message of peace. This shift rewired the entire Mauryan state. The empire's administrative power was turned away from war and towards social welfare, public health, and ethical legislation. The waters of the Daya River eventually cleared, but the ideological shift remained. Ashoka's reign serves as a record of an empire that recalculated its entire existence after facing the physical price of its own conquests.